will agree with that entirely.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a great one.
For a while, it was a little confronting for me, and it's very important for a business like ours. Welcome to this week's FOXY TV. We are talking all about customer service and why it's so important and what it means to us at FOXY and some of the components of that.
So customer service, I think obviously it's incredibly important, and I would say our understanding of the need of and the understanding of the power of customer service has really been a significant factor to our business's growth.
Yeah, I'd say this is one of those things that we consider and go, customer service is really important. Like, that's a no-brainer. Everybody's going to agree with that. I think what we've learned over time, and this has probably evolved as well, is what does that actually mean? Mm-hmm. So to us, what does customer service mean, and what are the ways that we are deliberate about it? Because everybody wants to say they have great customer service, but it means different things to different people.
No, I reckon that we probably focus on, I don't know if we do this more than other people, but that's not just FOXY based. So we have a local coffee shop, and they've got a drive-through, and they are the happiest group of people that you could meet at 5 a.m. in the morning. They know you, and I don't know if this is because
It's an over the top. So the reason we use this example is because it's just such an easy one to go to as an example of, one example of great customer service that makes you remember it and think of it. So these people are, and I'm the quiet introvert generally, and at 5 a.m. the last thing I want to do is have a conversation. So for a while, it was a little confronting for me, but these people, they'll lean out the window to chat to you. They'll not just take your order and that's it. They'll want to chat to you as you're waiting there. So it's an example to us that we bring up all the time because it makes you smile back. And I found myself starting to engage in the same way back to them before you even get to the window. And that's not who I am generally, but their happiness and their enthusiasm rubs off on me.
And it's little things. It's remembering your order. It's remembering your name at 3 different points. Like, obviously there's 3 different windows at points that you talk to a person when you do a drive-through order. It's remembering my name. And I don't know if this is down to their cards or not. They remember Jake's name. Where's Big Jake today? Jakey hasn't been through. Like, the familiarity. And I know that's not going to happen to everybody, but the happiness 100% will be seen by everybody. Now, I have quite a few conversations about that with our kids in the car. So we'll go through Macca's. And Macca's for such a long time really was responsible for instilling the ideals and the values of great customer service to the younger generation in, I would say, Australia. Now, they didn't take that lightly. We had the CEO of Macca's present at one of the mastermind series I went to, and they held that responsibility quite high. And I would say now when you go through Macca's, we have one Macca's around the corner from us. They haven't had ice cream, they haven't had soft serve in about a year. They are always out of something, whether or not it be a large coffee cup on a Sunday morning, they can't do full cream milk, or they can't do a cash order. There is something every single time. But now, more overwhelmingly, they don't even say hello when you get to the window, and they just point to the tap and pay.
Yeah.
And then the kids in the background now go, oh, that wasn't very good service, was it? For us, we have a bit of conversation, obviously, for the kids to now notice good customer service. We've been able to incorporate that into our business because the idea, so obviously I like to talk, I talk loud, I talk happy, I like to make somebody feel as though me talking to them is the best part of my day, and I'm going to go out of my way to make somebody feel that way, and that's how I love everybody to engage with anybody externally within our business. I think we do a relatively good job at that. However, I don't know how much discussion we have on that within the business.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we've had a few conversations or training or little bits of feedback that we give to the team, because at the end of the day you can have that conversation, but we're a team of 40 people and we're not on site and talking to everybody. But we had, just as one example, we've got people who answer the phones, so we've got an admin person who does a lot of that. And one of the questions we asked, I think, on social media recently, and I don't think that everybody understood necessarily what we meant by it, but it was, can you hear a smile over the phone? And we talk about that in the sense that if the person answering a phone call, say you're calling somebody and the person answering feels low energy, feels down, you can sense that. Whereas somebody who's very high energy seems, even if it feels sometimes a little pretend or fake or put on, that smile, that enthusiasm it sets a tone for a conversation. So when we talk about little examples in our business, that's probably one of the ones that we've done recently, which is if you're answering the call, if you're on site and you're saying hello to somebody, you're meeting the agent there or the client for the first time, how you interact with that person is very important because it sets that tone and it sets us up as a very happy and easy to work with team.
And in the business of first impressions, that first phone call is critical to make sure that they get it right, they know who they're meeting, and we are reflective of what we put ourselves out to be on social media. So that phone call is very, very important to get right. Now, it's not just down to that initial phone call and that first interaction. Customer service can go a whole lot further. So what about when something goes wrong?
Well, so that for us, I'm just sitting here thinking about the 1,000 examples of components or things that make up great customer service. So one is, as you say, when things don't go right. So for us, something not going right might be as simple as we're running a little behind time. We're not going to get there right when we said we were going to. Could be at the opposite end, which is almost a worst case. We've damaged a wall, we've scratched something in somebody's house, and it's a problem. Or we're not going to hit a particular deadline or whatever it is. Like there's little examples where we're not going to do what we said we're going to do. So how we respond to that is an example of great customer service. So for us, it's always been really important that if we do, say, that worst case where we damage somebody's property, the last thing we want to do or have happen is that the client or the agent finds it and has to tell us about it. That is an absolute worst case because what it looks like, whether we've done it or not, intentionally, it looks like we're trying to hide it or make out like it wasn't us. We've taken responsibility for damage that we didn't even do, and we're almost certain that it wasn't our team and it was there before, and yet we can't 100% know, and so we've taken responsibility because we see that as an example of great customer service. We can fix it, we have a problem, we're letting you know, we apologise, like it's a mistake, it's happened, it doesn't happen often, but we're going to look after it, we'll get a handyman in, we get it painted up, we repolish floors, we've done that before. It almost, and we've had this example in our team as well, this is something that if you do it really well, actually ends up being a positive, even though it came from a mistake.
So it's all about over communication, making sure that if they've been sitting there for an hour and we're going to be another 15 minutes, we've got to let them know because it is incredibly frustrating to sit there and wait for somebody who's not going to show up at the time that they said they will. Letting somebody know if something's gone wrong, letting them know if the dining chairs haven't made the truck, but we will be there before photos, and letting them know and reassuring somebody. Those tiny phone calls, whilst they might feel like little insignificant, that they can mean quite a bit to a client, and it's the reassurance at the end of the day. What other components do you think?
I think for us in our industry, one of the things that, because when we talk about customer service, it's not just about one particular customer. It's not the client only. The agent is a really big component of that. So how we interact and what we do for the client, for the agent, as a representative of their team really matters. Yep. So every little interaction, everything, our job is to make people's lives easier, to take stress away and to get a result. So for agents, it's about understanding that communication is vital, being reliable, and if somebody's going to refer us, we need to make sure that we represent them really well because it can reflect poorly if we don't. So making sure we do what we say we're going to do, we can over-communicate with both them and the client. Each agent has a particular way they like to be involved in the process, so we work around them and make sure that fits.
Acknowledging that we're an extension of their brand and really helping to highlight that so that a vendor feels like we're one big team. Obviously, there's great factors there for the client and the vendor and us with that relationship with the agent, but the potential there with the agent directly, helping them to save time. So learning whether or not they like to book the photography in before they book the styling and us working to a photography date. Do they use us as a bit of a leapfrog and a stepping stone to make sure that everything happens smoothly in the background and we help the process get locked in. We lock in the styling and then they lock in the photography without them actually having to chase the styling and photography appointments. Do they make up a listing under offer or sold online? When do we reach out to let them know rather than have them having to reach out to us to let us know our property is ready to be packed up? What can we do to make them help make it seamless as far as how they integrate our process into their processes? And every single agent is different, and learning those differences between each agent makes a big difference.
We even took this a step further a little while ago now. We probably need to do it again, but we ran a little online survey, like a 2-minute survey for the agents we do a lot of work for. Well, one of the questions we asked was, which of these options do you think is the most important reason for you to use us as a stager? And we gave a whole heap of reasons: best price, communication, speed, flexibility, the actual staging itself and the quality of the styling end result, all those things. And firstly, that let us know for each agent what was most important for them, but it also let us know which components of what we do as a business were most recognised, so like it had the most results. So things like we're the most flexible. We get a phone call late and something has to change, and we can make it work, and we smile and we don't make it a problem. That's obviously something that we've built a team around, and we have the resources and the ability to do that because we know it's important that other competitors can't necessarily do that on the same level.
Yep.
So communication is also a really, really high one and most important. And these things were more important than pricing and the actual staging itself, which is the product. So these other components of customer service, well, this wasn't us guessing. This was agents telling us that these things were more important.
Yep.
How do you welcome feedback, especially bad feedback?
It's actually an interesting conversation every time I have that with a client, because a client approaches that, whether it's the agent or the vendor, they approach it like they're an inconvenience to me, like they're having, and they'll apologise. I had a client yesterday, she said, I'm so sorry, I don't mean to have a moan. I'm like, I welcome feedback. The opportunity for somebody to call me and let me know we haven't met expectation, and then the opportunity to rectify that feedback is far more valuable than somebody who sits there and just settles with a subpar product and then they don't tell anybody about us. We're a referral-based business. You need to love the end product as much as we do, and you're not going to do that without giving us the opportunity to potentially rectify something. Now, we do a lot of properties, and most of those we get absolutely perfect, but there will be those few that slip through. And it's not because they haven't had the attention they don't deserve, it's because we've had a different thought process about how that property should be presented. I don't want a client just to feel like they can't say anything. We are very approachable for that reason, and most of the time we rectify. It's either a conversation for them to understand certain things, certain elements didn't work in a space. The design discretion does remain with our team, but most of the time they just want to be listened to, and that makes such a significant difference.
And often the changes that we agree to make, that's not a big deal.
No.
Like it doesn't cost us a lot of time or energy, or maybe we have to get a truck out, or like it's a minor inconvenience on us for something that lets somebody feel heard and get what they get that last little bit of the product, so that they end up
telling people about us.
They want,
Yep.
How much do you agree with the premise of putting the customer first / the customer is always right?
My take on this is yes, but I think the team kind of comes first for me. So I would often say that the people in this team at FOXY come first, because that then allows us to do a better job for the client. So having said that, I can't think of an example where those two things compete with each other. So our clients aren't allowed to be on site while we're doing an installation. It's a workplace health and safety issue, and there are times at which some people become quite agitated about that. We had a client who was on site with their mum, and they didn't want to leave. We tried to find a midpoint. They were going to sit outside. That's not how it happened. They ended up coming inside and being quite disrespectful and vocally disrespectful, and quite rude. Now, the stylist on site, she was a training stylist, so she's at the point now where she's doing vacant installations, but she's not somebody who's got an overwhelming amount of confidence behind her, and she's really very much still needs the support of the team. I've asked the clients to leave very respectfully and very nicely. Like, I understand I'm asking you to leave your home. This was an investment property, and it was vacant, and they've refused to. Now, it's my responsibility to provide a safe workplace for our team, and in that respect, it's a conversation. It wasn't forceful or anything like that, and it's really down to how the conversation's had. The team have to be safe. The team have to feel like they can produce their very best work in their work environment. Their work environment changes every day. They go to a different workplace, obviously different houses and different suburbs. And we have to create something that's the very best for them to succeed and win. And that isn't going to happen when you have someone being disrespectful and rude in the same space about things that become quite personal. So that's where we sort of step in. But again, the difference, that job didn't get cancelled. The job went ahead. They ended up selling. There was an apology. It's a very emotional time, and we're very aware of that. It's not a reflection on the person at the time. It's a reflection on everything else that is happening to get a property to get to the market. And there is so much that can happen, so many variables. So that's how I approach the conversation. I'm very much aware. They were very grateful for that a week later when the property went under offer and everything was all good. To answer that, I guess, in a different way as well. So, or the way you phrased it, the question was, do we put them first? And we say our people come first, because that lets us do a better job.
Yep.
But Then there's the side of it, which is is the client always right? Then it comes, there's examples, a lot of examples where it's, are they right or are we right? Because they have questions about the styling and those sort of conversations. So we've kind of touched on that as well, but it's always a conversation. There's always a middle ground. There's always things that we're happy to do, and then there's things that we might not agree with from a staging point of view or a first impressions point of view, and you have those conversations, and then it's about making sure that we're communicating, we're being respectful in the way that we address it, and we explain why we've made the choices we have.
More and more TV shows, Selling Houses Australia, all those sorts of things are giving our vendors more education in how properties should be styled, and a lot of the questions are valid, and it's just appreciating the fact that they would like some input.
Do you agree with the following quote? People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Oh, agree with that entirely.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a great one.
And it's very important for a business like ours that is very much a lot of communication up front. The product is up front, we stage a house, and then they won't hear from us generally, or they might not hear from us for weeks. And they might be very happy at the start, but how you finish that interaction 4, 6, 8 weeks later really defines how they end up feeling about the whole thing. Now, one little bit of an unfortunate part to what we do is that we don't have full control over the result, and at the end of the day they're trying to sell a property. Now, we don't have full control over whether that's going to happen or not. We like to think we have a big impact on that, or getting a great offer on the table, but it doesn't mean that it's going to come through for them. So what we believe is we need to do everything that is within our power, that we have some sort of control or influence over, to make sure that that end point, when we finish everything, they walk away feeling really great about their interaction with us, especially if they get a good result, but even when they don't.
Yeah. All right, so customer service, I think, is... So why can I hear that? That sounds weird. Could you hear that? Or was that my ear? My ear was being weird.
You're talking so loud.
I could hear it, right?
It is echoing.
I could hear it. No, I could hear it. Thank you.
Someone
Testing.
Can you hear me?